I'm Eric.
And I'm Jaime.
And this is Horrorscope, a podcast for people who love horror movies.
And people who want to love them. Do you want to hear my story I was going to tell you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
we'll open up
so
the
there
story.
are two things that you need to know. One thing is my work had a conference today over Zoom. The second thing is that an inside joke on my team at work is about the Twilight baby, Renesmee.
Okay. Wait, your bits about Twilight?
Yeah, it's a vampire movie. It's our
gosh.
second vampire movie.
I can't believe you did this to me. I can't believe you've done this.
We had a breakout session, and the goal was to network with people who were there, and we were going to do coloring pages. So you can annotate on Zoom, so you can color over a coloring page. So that's what we were going to do. And then my team was like, dang, we should have colored in the Twilight baby. And so then I Googled Twilight coloring pages, and I find a whole page full of absolute really bad art. And I posted it in the chat of our breakout room. And then one of my coworkers was like, you just sent that to everyone at this conference. And I was like, are you sure? Or did I just send it to this room? And someone's like, I don't know how Zoom works, but it says me to everyone in the chat. And it's like a page of Twilight coloring pages. And I screamed, and I was like, hi, I have to quit now.
Or you gain everyone's respect.
I was just like, did I just send this to 200 people?
That would be incredible.
I was really scared for a minute. And I was like, how do I delete it? I can't delete it because you can't delete stuff out of Zoom chat.
You gotta own up to that.
Well, okay, but it didn't send. It only sent to the people in our breakout room, so just my coworkers.
Okay.
But there was a good 5 minutes there where I was living in fear. I was like, I don't want to have to explain this to everybody.
That's amazing.
And that is my vampire story for the day.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's just something that would only happen to me. You know?
Yeah.
Only that's a very specific problem.
This is your Twilight karma coming back at you.
No, it wasn't
forcing
that,
Twilight
so
upon all of us, and now suddenly you've accidentally forced it upon the world.
No, that episode is one of our most popular episodes.
I unfortunately know that.
So we're watching a vampire movie today.
We are watching a vampire movie today. What vampire movie are we watching?
Fright Night.
Ooh.
You have to say it like that with a hard T.
Fright Night.
I know literally nothing about this movie at all.
I gave Jaime the heavy hitters because she said a vampire movie to watch next. I said, here are vampire movies. Dracula, Nosferatu, other ones, not Twilight. And out of all the lists, she landed on Fright Night.
I was like, fuck it, I don't know anything about that movie. And then Eric's like, do you want to know? And I said, no!
And here we are!
And here we are.
So I guess it's a Jaime choose your own adventure kind of story. I guess we gotta read the wiki.
I think every episode is that way.
That is true.
I think.
But this is more so of what you want to know.
I like it. I like rolling in blood. Should I read the wiki up top?
Yeah, let's just do
Probably.
it right
Okay. So, I'm on Wikipedia. Fright Night is a 1985 American horror film written and directed by Tom Holland in his directorial debut. Not our Tom Holland. So, I clicked on
Hashtag not our Tom Holland.
I clicked onto the page and all I saw was Tom Holland and I was like, little Tom? Because this poster does not look like it was made in the 80s, but then I didn't read the 1985 part, so. Okay.
Props to the poster.
Yeah, it's a good poster. It was produced by Herb Jaffe. It stars Chris Sarah. Do you say Herb or Herb?
Herb is good. It just sounds better.
Do you say Herb? Do you say Herb for stuff in your kitchen?
Herbs and spices.
You say herbs?
Is it herb? Or do you say
no,
herb?
it's herbs, Eric.
Oh.
You've won!
Oh.
You've won, my boy!
Guys, you can't see it, but herbs are falling down right now like confetti.
The factory! You've won!
Eric and the Herb Factory.
This makes me crazy because Americans say herb.
Okay.
My mom is South African.
Okay.
The rest of the world says herb because there's a fucking H in it.
Yeah.
A H! It makes me crazy. It makes me crazy, and Mikey always makes fun of me.
Well, not anymore.
Herb! He probably still will. Now he'll make fun of you.
Now I'll pop out of nowhere. That's some herbs in his face.
I'm never gonna... This is the rest of the wiki.
Second episode of just revelations in the first half.
Okay. It stars Chris Sarandon.
Yes. Susan Sarandon's ex-husband.
Incredible. William Ragsdale, Roddy McDowell, Amanda Bierce, Jonathan Stark, Dorothy Fielding, Stephen Joffreys, and Art Evans. That's a lot of folks.
It's weird how wikis sometimes list like the top 3 actors and other ones are like,
every
here's
fucking
the cast.
goddamn person. The film follows young Charlie Brewster, who discovers that his next door neighbor, Jerry Dandridge, is a vampire. When no one believes him, Charlie decides to get Peter Vincent, a TV show host who acted in films as a vampire hunter, to stop Jerry's killing spree. What? This is a good movie already. This is a good movie.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Oh man, I should have asked you before you read that wiki. When you heard the words Fright Night, what was kind of like the vibe, or like, did you have any inclination of what that could be?
I thought it was gonna be a recent-ish movie, but I didn't recognize it. I thought it was gonna be like a 2010-ish movie.
I mean, you're close because they made the remake in 2011.
Okay. Maybe that's why.
Colin Farrell.
Okay, is it good? No.
I've never seen it, but I've heard like retro reevaluations and saying it's pretty good actually. It's got a good cast.
We'll take pretty good actually.
It's got David Tennant in it.
Really?
It's got.
Is he the vampire?
No, Colin Farrell is.
Okay, that's good still. Okay.
It's got McLovin in it.
Okay.
Anton Yelchin and Poots. Imogen. That's how you say it, right? Imogen Poots? Okay.
Imogen,
yeah. I've said that wrong last time, so I'm just...
Poots! It's got Poots! That sounds like a good... Okay, well, maybe... This sounds like a good movie.
Yeah.
See, I always know what I'm doing, despite the last few minutes of this podcast.
Well, a weird coincidence, too, in my opinion, a connection I made to this movie, is that this movie was made in 1985, and is like kind of like a attempted kind of reflection, revitalization of the old school Universal horror movies.
Oh, see? Every time. Without fail. So good.
Jamie is tapped into something. I don't know what it is. It's like the horror vein, and Jamie's just like...
Yeah, I don't want to tap into the horror vein. Ooh, are you...
That's great, Jamie. Don't you...
Tap into the horror vein?
Tap into the horror vein.
It's pretty good. That's our other podcast. Are you scared of needles?
Not really.
Like in you? Like tapping into a vein? Like the thing we just said?
No.
Can't stand it.
I don't know.
Hate.
Out of all the things, weirdly enough, that's just like, yeah, okay. I was a strong baby, that's why. Like, here comes the needle, I'm like, give it to me.
I used to be able to watch them draw my blood. I was fine. And now I'll cry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I used to hook myself up when they had the blood drives. They would, like, have the plasma one, which took longer, which was great because I wanted to get out of class more.
Okay.
And I don't know, it was just, you gotta watch it.
You said you used to hook yourself up to them?
They did. Sorry, I did
That's not what you said! That's not what you said!
I realized Jamie had like a shocked expression. I'm like, what, it's a blood drive
Eric
in my school.
just goes to the blood drive and he's like, yeah! Just fucking...
Eating my chocolate chip cookies.
That sounds good. We didn't have that at my school.
Oh, bummer.
Alas.
The only problem was is that afterwards, like, you have to wait 10 minutes, but like doing that process, like, because they're putting water into you.
Let's not talk about
sorry,
it.
Anyways, you're like, does this make you fuck? Does this bother you? Because it bothers me, and I'm like,
don't.
So, what do you want to? Do you want to just know the full rundown, like usual?
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. What do you think? I'm throwing the Choose Your Own Adventure book on the ground. I'm going to pick up whatever page it's on.
Shit. All right. So Tom Holland started off as a writer. He wrote a movie called Class of 1984, which I liked a lot, and also the sequel to Psycho, Psycho 2.
What's the subtitle?
He's back, babe. I don't know.
Getting in the bath again.
Mommy's boy is back.
Oh, no. Okay. Is the other movie a horror movie? Is Class of 1984 a horror movie? Yeah,
it's like it's a weird. I guess it's a horror movie. It's like in this like post-apocalyptic kind of, but it's just like the 80s. And there's this group of kids who are like real assholes, and it's just like these teachers who are in like this really bad school, and the teachers start like losing it.
They still have school in the apocalypse? I don't want that.
It's like modern, but it's like the extreme version, I think, of like what Hollywood tried to portray like punks to be. Okay. Where it's like, these punks are out of control. They're willing to murder. There's like a lot of movies like that out there.
It's like a Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, with less problematic elements.
That's good.
Which isn't hard to do. So we got that. You got the idea while writing a movie, Psycho 2. I forget which one.
So did he write this? He wrote it and directed it?
Yeah, so you got this idea of just like a kid, like boy next door.
Is it a child? Is our protagonist a kid?
He's a teenager.
Okay.
And it's the boy who cried wolf with like boy next door kind of thing, where it's like Rear Window. That's what I'm trying to think of. It's like Rear Window.
Oh, like Disturbia.
Yes, for our modern audience.
Disturbia was one of those movies that really captivated me as a kid. Never saw it, but I always saw commercials for it, and I was like, wow, that movie looks hardcore.
So yeah, it's like Disturbia.
Okay.
But instead of a murderer, it's a vampire murderer.
Okay.
And so he loved the idea, and then he liked the idea of just like kind of revitalizing traditional vampires, because at this point they've kind of gone to the wane side. They kind of just
in the 80s? What about Lost Boys?
That comes afterwards.
Oh, okay. So
and even then,
did this kick it off?
Well, Lost Boys is... I wouldn't even say Lost Boys is like a... Lost Boys is the start to sexy vampire
okay.
versus scary vampires, but still scary.
Twilight put an end to that.
Yeah.
It was the beginning and the ending.
You gotta respect your elders, which is Lost Boys. So yeah, and say this is not teenage vampires though, or is it?
Weird. It either is or it isn't.
That's two options. And so then he got greenlit by Columbia based off his past scripts, and then he decided to do this. Since it was his first time directing, he did he went above and beyond with this film. He worked with like the cast after they casted to revise the script a little bit to like fit what they think their character would do. They like staged the whole thing beforehand, so by the time they got on set, they only had like 2 or 3 takes that they needed to do.
Whoa!
He had all the characters write like biographies about their characters and understand each scene.
Oh my god!
So it's just like boom,
real
boom,
writer
boom.
Approach.
Right? Yeah, I loved it, and it's like the Columbia was just like, oh, we got bigger projects. This is like our small budget movie.
Okay.
So we're not having to pay attention to it. So like there was no interference from the studio really. So they just went off and
good news. That's what you want, I think. Actually.
Yeah.
You want to be the smaller budget movie?
Yeah. A lot less pressure.
Nice.
Yeah, and then you have Chris Sarandon, who you might know from Princess Bride, as the prince.
The shitty guy? Humperdinck?
Yes.
He was married to... Wow.
Yeah. Dog Day Afternoon.
Lucky guy.
Voice of Jack from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Ew.
Right.
Hate him. Boo. He's the vampire.
He's the vampire, yeah.
Okay.
So, and then he's pretty much the only one who is notable from this movie, unfortunately.
So none of the rest of them did anything? All those names I just read off?
They did stuff. Well, like, Rodney McDowall was like an old school actor. He was in like the Planet of the Apes movies, and he was kind of the one that he was also in Class of 1984, so he's kind of like the legacy actor that got pushed in. Yeah. All the other ones are like young and upcoming. You never know with horror movies, because you never, like, it's like there's so many, like, this is Kevin Bacon's first role as in a horror movie. It's like every kid started off in a horror movie. Do you want to know taglines before or after the movie?
Right now!
There's some very good reasons to be afraid of the dark.
Okay.
Nothing to do with the movie.
Is this a comedy?
It is kind of. Yeah, well, okay, it's kind of like our first horror comedy, huh? No, Gremlins.
Cabin in the Woods.
Oh, that was supposed to be a comedy? That was supposed to be a horror movie? That was supposed to be a movie?
It's our third.
But yeah, Gremlins kind of took away, because I was like, oh, this is going to be like, because I realized like all the genres we've covered, we haven't really done 80s horror movies. But then I was like, oh, we did Gremlins.
It's our first movie where they made monkeys play characters.
No. First character movie to make a practical effect that we would live and die for. Oh wait, nope.
Oh no, sorry.
Second one. If you love being scared, it'll be the night of your life.
Oh no.
That's not how long a movie lasts. What?
That feels threatening.
Yeah.
I feel threatened.
Third one. There are good reasons to be afraid of the... Okay, it's the same... Wait, no! Wait!
That wasn't a bit?
IMDb listed 3 quotes, and one is just a different version of this first one.
I thought that was a bit. You're like, dang, no.
I got duped by my own research. I should read these beforehand.
You got the subtitles are like their own little horoscopes, you know?
Yeah, I'll stop saying the taglines and just read them like they're my own.
That feels like it. Does the soundtrack slap?
It is by the same person who did
Gremlins,
Terminator 1 and 2. It also has a soundtrack with songs in it.
Okay. 80s music. Yes.
80s music,
okay,
yeah.
That sounds good to me.
There's a real good club scene that we'll be watching.
Can't wait. Okay. Is there anything I should look out for?
Chris Sarandon.
Okay. Any bug stuff?
Oh, that kind of stuff. Yes, thank you. There is a scene that I will either mute or skip over for you because they're
animals.
Yes.
If it's the 80s, the dog dies. Any last words? You already said 3 of them.
There are good reasons to be afraid of the dark.
Motherfucker. Okay. Hey y'all, it is time for the content warnings for Fright Night. This movie has a lot of goop, impaling, some nudity, a scene where a wolf gets hurt and makes sad wolf noises, and some eye trauma. Also, heads up, this movie is very horny, and it has some not great moments between a grown-ass vampire man and a high school girl. It's a trope of the genre, and it's also the 80s, and it also grossed me out, so if that's something that you want to avoid, keep an eye out. It's our job, and it's your job, to make the world a little less horrific however we can, so this week we are highlighting a nonprofit called, guess what? Batworld. What's Batworld, you may ask? Thank you for asking. It's a nonprofit bat sanctuary run out of Texas that helps people learn how to rescue and rehabilitate bats in the wild. Check their site out. We're going to link in the show notes. You can watch bat cams and see what to do if you find a bat and figure out how to help it. We're going to talk about fruit bats a lot, so this is why this is our cause for the week. And fun fact about fruit bats, 98% of rainforest regrowth is thanks to fruit bats. So, you know what? Thank your local fruit bat, and let's get into it.
Fright Night. Jaime, independently of knowing this movie, was like, the emphasis is on the T's. And how they say it throughout the movie is, welcome to Fright Night.
Nailed it.
Every time, Jaime.
That's what you come here for, guys.
You come here for Jaime to know
really
things without knowing
stupid
things.
predictions. Really stupid predictions.
Stupid predictions and stupider movies.
This movie was not stupid. I gotta summarize this son of a bitch. Where's my phone? It's a challenging one. Where is my phone?
Jaime is walking into this podcast recap like the disgruntled judge coming in and be like, yeah, I'm so-and-so. Let's get this moving.
Okay, let's look at the notes. Let's pull up the record here. It starts off with a fake vampire show called
Fright Night.
Excellent. And it's hosted by Peter Vincent, which is a knock on Vincent Price.
And Peter Cushing.
And Peter Cushing. I don't know who that is.
You know him as Star Wars Grand Moff Tarkin. Remember the guy in Rogue One?
Oh, you've already lost me.
Rogue One CGI guy. Remember in Rogue One when they had the CGI bad guy?
Yes, okay.
It was like they brought him back for the dead for that guy.
Weird pull.
Peter Cushing was in all the Hammer horror movies.
Okay.
And he played Van Helsing a lot.
Okay.
He's the guy. I sent you maybe the clip from the Dracula AD where Dracula has a pseudonym Alucard.
Yes.
And he draws the lines to each letter to reveal that Alucard is actually Dracula. And he leans back into his chair and he's just like, my God. But
that guy, okay.
Sorry. Just a great
and
scene.
then Vincent Price
is who's just like a horror
they don't
icon.
know.
He's just in stuff.
Okay, all right. So, Fright Night is the TV show. I wrote down stupid idiot bastard protagonist who I hope gets eaten.
And that's how we roll.
That's who we're working with, dude. That's who we're working with. So he's making out with his girlfriend, and what's his name? What's his fucking name?
Charlie Brewster.
Charlie Brewster.
You're so cool, Brewster.
Oh, okay. I should remember. All right. So he is making out with his girlfriend, and she tells him to stop, and he doesn't. She tells him to stop again. He yells at her and gets mad at her, and that is when I decided I hated him.
But Jaime, it's okay because she apologized afterwards.
Hate him. Not good at consent. Not good at anything. No talents. Charlie has no talents. She's upset. She finally is like, okay, let's have sex. And she takes her shirt off. And then he is looking out the window at his neighbor's house. And someone is walking a coffin in to his neighbor's house. And he picks up binoculars, even though it's right down. And he's like, oh my God, Amy, look at this. And Amy's like pissed because he's not paying attention to her. And which makes it sound petty. It is not. Amy is in the right 100%. Nothing is Amy's fault ever. Thank you. Amy's blameless. It's like the Brooklyn Nine-Nine meme where she's like, I've just met Amy, but if anything were to happen to her, I would kill all of you and then myself. Amy's pissed. Amy leaves. And then he finds out from his mom that there are new neighbors. And she's like, apparently this new neighbor is really hot. He's coming home from school. Oh, before this happens, Amy sees him, tries to apologize, says it's all her fault. He's like, oh, great, tight. And then we meet a really weird kid they call Evil, who he's just like really like weird and awkward and yells a lot and laughs. And they see on the TV after school, they're like in a diner.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of those after school diners
that
you have in the
80s.
before this, there's a moment when he is outside.
That's right. Okay. Because he is walking into his house after school, and he sees we see the woman's foot getting out of a car shot, and there's a hot woman, and she's kind of flirting with him, and then she asks for the address, and he's like, no, that's the neighbor. And so then she disappears. Then they're at the diner, and then they hear that 2 prostitutes were murdered and apparently beheaded, is what Evil tells them. So 2 prostitutes have been murdered. This girl was murdered. She was also a prostitute.
And that's when Charlie's like, ooh, something's going on. Something's
okay.
Nice. You forgot one of the best parts. He's paying attention to the news, and they're all goofing off, and Amy's like, I hear you. I'm here. I'm trying to, like, talk to you. And she gets all upset. So she puts a sloppy Joe right in his fucking
That's
face.
right. Very 80s of us.
Yes.
And then Evil/Ed, his real name is Ed, the weird kid, says, you're so cool, Brewster. That's how he says it. And then, and then Billy also tries to go into the neighbor's basement. And then this other dude pops up. And he's like, what you doing, kid? He's like, nothing. He's like, better stay that way.
Stands up.
So then Billy's in his room, and he looks across the way, and he sees into the window of his neighbor, and then he sees a woman and a man, Prince Humperdinck, who is... He's, like, unequivocally hot. Yes. He's hot, okay? Yeah. Look, we figured it out pretty early, all right? It
was a question, but it isn't a question.
Not anymore. And so they're making out. She takes her shirt off, and then this little fucking pervert grabs his binoculars, and he's like, woohoo! The 80s were disgusting. She's looking directly at him, also.
It's weird.
And then the vampire... Well, the neighbor looks at him.
Spoilers, Jamie!
The neighbor looks at him and makes direct eye contact with Billy, and then pulls down the shades. And he looked like he was going to kiss this woman's neck before. And then, heebie-jeebers, because he made eye contact with his horny neighbor. And it zooms in on his ring finger, and he has a ring.
He has long
They showed that ring, yes, and he has long fingernails at some points, and then they go away, and then they come back. Later, he sees the guy who talked to him earlier, who we are going to call Intern. What was that guy's name? Billy. Intern. We're going to call him Intern. Carrying a trash bag with a woman's sized lump in it, and they put it in the back of their car. He warns his mom about them, and then his mom calls out for him, and then to run back inside. And so then they see him, and I don't want to call him Prince Humperdinck. What was that guy's name?
It's Jerry.
His name's Jerry.
His name is Jerry. Let's just call him Jerry. It is Jerry.
Okay, Jerry. Jerry is eating an apple off of a knife. Okay? It's happening. That's all.
Can I just get a fact right in right now?
Yeah.
Because throughout this movie, he is eating fruits. Mm-hmm. Jamie, of course, alludes to the fact that this is very much like Twilight with the apple. But this man eats apples, oranges, peaches. Why do you think a vampire would eat so much fruit?
To prevent scurvy.
He was a pirate. No. As I mentioned earlier, Jesus.
I'm done.
When you said I'm done, it sounded like it was still part of the song.
It wasn't supposed to be, but then I was like, yeah, it is now.
As I said earlier, Tom Holland had the cast kind of give notes and revisions to it, and there's a few big ones. One of them was Sarandon had the idea that, he's a vampire. He's part bat. And so he must have some, like, fruit bat DNA.
Okay.
And I love that actor choice so much.
He's like, duh.
Yeah, like, I'm fruit bat.
Everybody knows that. Duh.
I need a bowl of fruit in every shot.
It's so funny. I thought it was just like a sexy sex allegory.
As you would think. As I would hope.
I cannot believe that I was like, vampires, fruit, like good and evil, temptation, sex, and you're like, fruit bat. That's a lot better. Okay.
It fits this movie more.
Okay. So he's stressed out. Bill, what's his name? Fuck this kid. Charlie is stressed the fuck out. Mm-hmm. He calls the cops into the house, and the intern, the lieutenant comes into the house, and he's like, he killed a fucking girl in here. And then he's like rummaging through the house while this guy is talking to the cop. The intern is talking to the cop, not Jerry. And he uncovers a painting that looks like Amy. He's like, Amy? And then he gets yelled at because he's like, he's a vampire! This whole fucking movie is this kid that's just yelling. And he's right, but He's
right, but he's also
God,
wrong.
I hated this fucking... I was rooting against him actively the whole time. And so the cops are like, what the fuck ever. How does he go talk to Ed?
Yeah, after this, he
just assumes that since he's weird, he'll be able to help him. And so he asks what to do, and Ed says, garlic. He can only come in if you invite him in. So then he ends up hammering his window closed, and he gets a cross, right? Those are the only things he has so far. Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of things so far. And he's like, he'll never get me in here. And in a very comical turn of events, his mom calls for him and he goes downstairs. And then who is there but the neighbor? And the mom's like, of course I invited him in. So you're fucked. It was really funny.
Who but Jerry?
So then he is in his room at night, and then the vampire, Jerry busts in. Jerry is in his room, comes in to talk to him, and he's like, you're sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. You called the cops on me. You're already being a fucking problem. Stop being a problem. And he picks him up and is like choking him against the wall and holding him there. And he's like, you know what? I'll forget about you if you forget about me. How about that? That is a great deal. That's the best deal you're going to get from a vampire.
Not that bad. I mean, he does murder people, but other than that, not bad.
And he's like, you have a choice, okay? I don't have a choice, which I thought was interesting. I was like, weird. And he tries to get him with the cross, and that doesn't work, and the guy's pissed, and then the guy's gonna throw him out the window. Jerry's gonna throw him out the window. So he's holding him by the throat, about to yeet him out of his window. I thought he was gonna, like, bust him down on the nails in the windowsill, but that was not the situation. And so, and then Charlie grabs a pencil and stabs it through his hand, and he shrieks and turns away, and when he turns back, he's wearing a completely different wig. And he has, like, blood red eyes, and his nails are long, and his face is kind of goopy a little bit.
Not as sexy. Not
sexy. Not as sexy. And he's, like, screaming and making, like, noises. And then the mom hears, and then he disappears out of the room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He says, you wouldn't want your mom... He's like, you gotta be quiet. You wouldn't want your mom to overhear, or else I'll have to kill her, too. And then he throws him into the closet and whatever. And so then... he disappears and goes back to his house. So Charlie's like, I'm fucked. And the guy's like, hey, you're fucked. You made the wrong call here.
What happens is that he goes away. This is a great part, too. He goes away, and then it cuts to him. And
yeah.
It's like, ring, ring. He's like, hello, I'm going to murder you tomorrow. Look through the window. It's me. And he, like, looks over. He's like, hello.
That's right. I completely forgot about that. And who can blame me with what happens in the rest of this movie? This isn't the first 40 minutes, and there's an hour left in this movie. And this is where it really kicks off. So Charlie starts watching the show with Peter Vincent again and sees Peter Vincent kill a vampire on the screen. And he's like, fuck yeah, this guy's going to help me out. So he goes and finds him the next day.
Oh, wild logically. I guess when you, like, have nowhere else to turn to, but it's...
It's the 80s. He had nothing else going on. And he goes to try find him. And... the guy thinks he's asking for an autograph. He's carrying his, like, vampire trunk of accoutrement out to his car. And I was
charcuterie board of vampire murder weapons.
Of holy water. And he's like, oh, you're here for a signature. And he's like, no, I need your help killing a vampire. And the guy's like, he just got fired from his show because teenagers don't like vampires anymore, and he gets kids your age don't appreciate vampires. And he starts telling him, and he's like, I lied, I actually don't believe in vampires. And then he drives away. And so this kid's screaming after another car going, no! And so hard cut to him in his room, and Evil Ed and Amy are visiting him, right? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, they, like, showed up to, like, check on him because I haven't heard from him.
Yes, and his room is covered in candles. He has garlic everywhere. He has a no trespassing sign on his door, which is hilarious.
He just discovered the cure.
And he's making a steak. Yeah. He is sharpening a steak. And they are like, do not make a mistake, please, because... he's like, I'm gonna go murder that fucking dude. He's not even gonna make it. I'm gonna murder him before nighttime. And Amy's freaking out. Ed is freaking out. And they convince him to wait, and they're gonna go. They say if it gets dark, you're gonna get fucked. So we just wait, and we'll figure something out. So then they go see what's his name, Peter Vincent, And Peter Vincent just got an eviction notice, and it's very sad. And then Amy offers him her life savings. She's a savings bond, and he's like, fuck yeah, okay, I'll do it.
Doesn't even, like, second guess taking money from a child.
No, and he has a prop from one of his movies, Orgy of the Damned, and he has a mirror. It's like a little pocket mirror. And he's like, I carry it with me all the time. One of the props. And so they call Jerry. They talk to his intern, and they ask if Jerry will just humor Charlie, basically, and do something. And he's like, no, I'm reborn. And he's like, oh, you're a reborn Christian, so you can't have crosses. It's sacrilegious. And then they're like, okay, just drink some holy water. It'll just be tap water. We're just trying to convince him. And so then they get Charlie, and they go over, and they say, okay, we don't even have to go over there tonight. He's coming tomorrow. We don't know what happens that entire day, which was weird. And then they show up, and basically they give him the holy water. It's this whole big thing. Charlie's being super rude. He drinks it. Nothing happens. And so then they're like, okay, that's done. And Peter Vincent's trying to get them to leave. And then he pulls out his prop mirror, and then he sees that Jerry doesn't have a reflection. And then he drops the mirror, and a shard of it falls out on the floor. And then he hustles them out of there, and then he books it after telling them that we know he's a vampire. Yeah. And then Jerry sees the shard. Do you see I really just tried to focus really hard there?
You're doing really good right now.
I was like, okay, I'm going to laser it.
You got every single bit of information.
I'm going to crush it. Guys, you don't even need to watch the movie. You should watch the movie, though. This is a pretty fucking good movie.
Please watch the movie.
So then they're walking home, and Charlie's flipping out. Ed is like, I'm going home! He like does this great. He's like, no, fuck you. We have to walk Amy home first. And so we get the idea that they're in this like suburban town, but then they're suddenly walking through alleyways in a city.
I guess that's like downtown.
I guess.
There's like a suburban town right next to like, buildings.
Yeah,
but it's just like they have to, like, where does she live?
Yeah, they're walking home, and then Ed's like, I'm gonna go through this alley because I'm not chicken shit. He's like, look, a vampire's gonna come murder us, okay? Don't go down the dark alleyway. The most I've liked that kid is in that moment. And then Ed goes into the alleyway, and then he starts screaming, and then they run after him, and he's lying on the ground, crying, holding his neck, and he's like, you're gonna have to kill me, or I'm gonna give you a hickey, ha ha ha, and he's like pranking his friend. His friend's pissed.
Classic
That's what you get for procs.
You get turned into a vampire?
Spoilers. He gets turned into a vampire. Hard cut to him walking through the alley. Charlie and his girlfriend go away. They're walking away back home, and then he's walking down the alley, and then Jerry shows up and is like kind of fast walking, just very confidently walking towards him in like a pleather trench coat. Very
like that classic, like that trope of like
strutting.
The killer. But he's like doing it with such like gravitas.
This is the skin of a killer, Bella.
No, stop it! You will watch so many vampire movies, it's not going to work.
I'm going to quote it every single time.
It's not going to work, yeah.
Every single time. And so he's walking, there's like a fog machine, and there's like dope synth that keeps happening whenever anything happens. It's like, bum, 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 bow, bow, bow. Right?
No.
That's it. And so Ed's running away, he trips over trash, he falls, he ends up in a dead end, he turns around, Vampire Man is there.
Dead.
And he... Dead.
And
so he's there. And Jerry says, hey, I know how it is to be weird. I know how it feels to be weird. And no one's ever going to bully you or beat you up again. I'll see to that. He holds his hand out to him. And Ed is crying, and he takes his hand and then gets swaddled in Jerry's trench coat and then screams. And Charlie and Amy hear him scream, but then Amy's like, stop fucking around. And then he's like, oh, what if he's actually in trouble? And she's like, nah, it's fine. He was not fine. So then they are walking still, and then Jerry pops up for them, and he keeps popping up down every alley they're going. They're running away, keeps popping up. And
surprising Jaime every time.
I know, yeah, I was like, what? He's over there.
It reminded me so much of like that scene in the labyrinth at the end when she's like just like in that like
haven't seen Labyrinth. I watched part of Labyrinth.
How have we been friends this long and not watched and not watched Labyrinth? Sorry.
I don't know, Eric.
You know what? Actually, if you could just leave.
I'm ignoring that. I'm staying. I'm squatting. So they try to get into the club. They can't get into the club. They go around the back. They bust in the door where there is a chef and a full kitchen.
A window.
Just an open window.
With just a chef.
Lesson, close your doors, okay? Our favorite bar that we haven't gone to in over a year and a half, probably. When was the last time we went to Gracie's?
Don't know.
Alas. There's a bar that we like to go to that has fried pickles and tots, and it's a joy when you're drunk. And there's always just one guy working the fryer, just kind of not happy with his life.
And there's kids going in and out that window all the time.
So, best part of the movie is this, well, questionably best part of the movie. Warning, hey, whoop whoop, the only police I'll allow, it's the horny police, okay? This movie, fucking horny. They are in the club, they run through all the dancers, and he gets to a payphone, and he's trying to call the cops.
Of course.
And he can't call the cops.
Little cop.
So, or the girl's like, they're gonna think you're crazy. I don't know what she says. Whatever. And he's getting the number for Peter Vincent. He's gonna call him. And while this happens, Jerry, the vampire, looks across the way at Amy, and their eyes meet, and then she is under his thrall, and in a scene that was kind of really fucking funny, he's like walking back and forth and getting closer each time, and it was like comical. It wasn't supposed to be comical, but it was really funny.
It was supposed to be like seductive, I think, because he's like, there's a large crowd of people and they make eye contact, and he's just like slowly making his way to her, but instead of like going in like a sort of a straight line,
that would have been good.
He keeps on like zigzag. He's like serpentine. Yeah, maybe that's the vampire seduction. You know, you gotta like
you gotta zig and you gotta zag.
You gotta zig, you gotta zag.
So he ends up making his way towards her, and a dope 80s ballad is playing, kind of a goth synth ballad. It was good shit. And so they start seductively dancing. He puts her whole hand on his butt, which was funny, and then he puts his whole hand on her butt, and I'm like, oh god, and I was like, she's in high school, and he's also, I mean, he's a vampire, so that's not good, but she's also in high school. Oh, when they met earlier, too, he made weird eye contact with her and was like flirting, like really intense eye contact with her, was flirting with her, and then he said, she looks just like her, doesn't she, later to his intern. Yes. That was important. Forgot that. He kisses her hand, and she's like, "Oh shit!"
He's like, "Look at these attractive young people." To Ed and her.
Yeah, that's like you were talking about one person. They are dancing, and there's like a great scene. They're dancing, they're spinning around, and every time she's looking at a mirror across the way, and he is not there. Yeah. So she's just dancing with herself, as the song said. Yeah, and it's crazy. And so then Charlie's trying to get to her, and he can't, and then Charlie does get to her.
You're saying he's incompetent? You're saying he can't do anything?
Charlie? He gets to her, and he tries to grab him, and then Jerry grabs his fist and like crushes it, and then starts making out with her. And then it was a power move, and then he goes full vampire mode and attacks one guy and throws another guy and his blood tomato eyeballs. And everyone starts screaming and panicking and running out of the club, and then Charlie and Amy get separated. It seems like the thrall lifts for a second, and she's like, oh fuck, Charlie, and then she gets yeeted out. He looks at her again, and then she follows him, and then they're gone. And he runs out, and then he sees Ed is in the back of the Jeep, and he is a vampire now. And hard cut to earlier, flashback. I'm just putting a flashback in here because I forgot to say this. So Ed goes to his apartment, and he's shook because he realized he was a vampire. He lets Ed in, and Ed shows him that he got bit on the neck. Peter says, what are we gonna do? And he's like, what are you gonna do? And then his fangs come out, and then his eyes start getting weird, and he's like, you're a phony and a fake, and I hate you, and I used to be such a fan. And then he has gone full gnarly vampire. He has like gross teeth, kind of gross face. And then Peter sticks a cross on his forehead and sizzles him. And so now he has a cross-shaped indent on his head. And pretty gruesome. Pretty grim. Bad prosthetic. But it was just like a bummer. I was like, oh, fuck. And then he runs away. And then that's when we see him. Okay, smash cut to back in the Jeep.
Speaking of smash cut, he smashed out of that window. That's how he got out.
That's right.
He just threw himself out. I love it. Every time. I can watch a whole movie where
it's like a Wile E. Coyote outline. He just jumps through the window.
And into a Jeep.
So they are jeeped away. Charlie goes to Peter Vincent. Peter Vincent's like, oh shit, are you one of them? And he's like, what do you mean am I one of them? And he has him...
What a dumbass kid.
Like, how is that out of the realm of possibility here, dog?
You cannot treat somebody else like they're crazy. in this situation.
The audacity.
Who's this guy? As Jamie called him, this Buster.
I forgot what his name was. And so he is able to hold on to the cross. So Peter Vincent lets him in. Peter Vincent is going to move. He's like, I'm fucking leaving. Bye. And he's like, I'm a phony. I'm a fraud. Peter Vincent isn't even my real name. I'm a washed-up actor. I got fired. My life is in shambles. And Charlie's like, I still believe in you. And then Peter Vincent is crying, and he's like, sorry, cannot help you. Bummer. So then Charlie was told, did they get a phone call? How does he find out that?
I don't know.
He somehow finds out that, Jerry says it in the club. Jerry says, if you want to see Amy ever again, before she fucking dies, you and Peter Vincent need to come to the house.
I'm sorry. I although we've already kind of established it, I really can't believe this movie called their vampire Jerry.
Every time we say it, it sucks.
It sucks! Jerry!
So, I'm trying really hard to get through this movie.
And I am stopping you.
Yes, and every step of the way! So, he has his cross. He's going to go, Charlie that is going to go try to get Amy back. Amy wakes up. She's wearing a white gown situation, like a white sheer gown. She's lying on like a fluffy blanket in front of a fireplace. Okay, it's not good.
Oh.
It can't. We'll talk about it. It's a problem. There's like sexy 80s synth playing. Dude walks in. She's like, "Where am I? Where is Charlie?" And what does he say?
He doesn't even say anything. Jerry just like he
takes his shirt off.
Yeah,
they start making out, like really making. Like you can see their mouths opening into each other's mouths. Like real. That sounds horrific. It wasn't horrific. It was just making out with a lot of mouth.
Yeah.
And he, I guess does vampire enthrallment, and she like unfastens the dress, and then he is kissing her neck, and then he bites her neck. And then blood drips down, and she is, like, moaning, and it's a lot. And then it overcuts the moaning with more synth, because Charlie is going to try and bust into the house. And then Peter Vincent pops up, and he's like, I've had a change of heart. I'm going to come help you. Yeah. When does he go back to his house? Oh, this is what happens. I didn't really watch this part, and I'll tell you why. So Peter Vincent goes to his house first, right?
They go into the vampire house.
Okay,
and
that's
then
right.
Peter Vincent chickens out and runs to Charlie's house.
That's right.
Find his mom.
So he gets they go into the house, and he's like, "Yeah, Amy's here. She's up there. You have to get through me." Jerry says this, of course. Yeah. And Charlie gets thrown off of the banister and like presumably passes out or bonks his head or something. So he's prone. In D&D terms. And then, Peter Vincent runs to try and go get his mom. Okay.
Well, he goes to check I think he was going to call because the phone line was cut.
That's right. And so Peter Vincent, let's cut to that. Peter Vincent is in the house. He tries to call. The phone lines are cut. And he runs upstairs and he says, Mrs. Brewster, your phone lines are cut. And then he sees like red yarn in the bed. And I was like, oh no, what is that gonna be? And then it's Ed wearing a Raggedy Ann wig. Yeah. I don't know, I thought it was just gonna be like a doll, or I thought she was gonna be dead, and then no, she wasn't dead. And then Ed is wearing a wig, and it was pretty funny. He's like, I know the phones are cut, I cannot, and he's like yelling at him. And then this is the part that I skipped. So I'm gonna tag Eric in to talk about this part.
Okay, yeah, well, in like traditional vampire lore, vampires can turn into bats and also wolves. And so
you never see them turn into a wolf, I feel like.
No, it's impressive in this movie, because I was getting this movie a little bit confused with like other vampire movies that always do that trope that I've brought up multiple times of being like, that's just in the movies. And in actuality, vampires don't get hurt by crosses. This one is just like
every damn thing.
Crosses hurt. They have to be invited. Holy water's bad. Stakes to the heart. And also they turn into bats and werewolves, which spoilers, we see both. So he turns into like a full-fledged wolf. That's just a wolf.
Weird that he turns into a werewolf. It's weird.
Yeah.
Vampires and werewolves normally, Twilight rules, right? It's like oil and water.
You just want to say Twilight again, huh? You want to see that little checkmark ding? Wow, you're doing what I did.
That's Phil.
Feels good. Ed comes out of the bed. He's like, oh, and the mom works night shift, so she's not dead. Yeah. And he's like, she left a note and says that your dinner's in the oven. And then
attacks him.
Peter Vincent's like, runs. And then he like stumbles back in the hallway into a table. Ed is now a wolf and he goes to attack him. And then all of a sudden Vincent uses one of the chair legs to, stake the vampire wolf man. And he falls down the stairs. And then he's like it's like an animatronic dog that like crawls into the corner. And Peter Vincent slowly comes down the stairs to find this like half wolf, half boy with a stake through the heart.
We muted it, and I did not watch the dog fight part because it's sad dog noises.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to deal with that. So we were watching this part muted, and it was like pretty grim, actually. And then we turned it on, and the music didn't...
It's still grim.
It was still grim, yeah. So
it's a weird moment.
It was a weird moment, because he's like gooey, and then he's a werewolf, and then he turns back into a human, and then he's not human yet. He looks like a vampire, and he's like gasping and screaming and like dying, and Peter Vincent is crying.
He has like a beautiful journey where he like goes to like
he does.
He like goes to reach out to him, but then like realizes no, this is like a monster because it's like it's weird.
It was really like touching. I was like, whoa, I don't know. It was a weird beat for this movie to have. It's really weird. And so then Ed turns back into a human, and then he dies, and he looks normal, and then the seared cross mark on his forehead goes away. So he's just a naked dead boy now.
In Charlie's house.
Then we cut back into the house, and Charlie he just gets chucked in there, and Amy is like shivering on the ground and face down. She's just like in a heap, kind of. Jerry says, he gives him a steak, and he's like, you're gonna want that before the sun comes up. And then we see that Amy is in the process of turning into a vampire. And she has little pokey teeth, and her eyes are red now, and she's like not really with it. And then Charlie screams, Amy, no! And then Peter Vincent sneaks in the house, gets in, and he comes up at the door, and he's able to bust through the door with Charlie covering, making noise. And then he's like, okay, grab Amy, we gotta go. He's like, psych, look at her. And so that, one more time, eating an apple, because he is a fruit bat, Jerry hears him and says, we have a visitor. And so he goes upstairs.
He's very creative with his apple eating. Let's break down his apple eating, because there's one moment...
We can't, no. No. Absolutely not. So, they're like, okay, we need to come back later and find a plan. So they start leaving, and then the intern shows up, and the intern is walking up the stairs towards him. And then Peter Vincent pulls out a gun that he had earlier, a little tiny pistol, and he's like, don't come any closer or I'll shoot. And the guy just keeps coming at him, and then he sticks his head up against the barrel of the gun and shoots him. Great, shoots him. He disappears, he goes down, falls like incredible somersault down the stairs, and then he stands up, and then he comes back at them again. So he's still coming at them, and there's like blood coming from the wound in his like eyes, and like shoots him a bunch of times, impervious to bullets. So I was like, wait, is this guy a vampire? Is he a zombie? And then Eric said he's just basically an intern forever.
Yeah, immortal intern.
Immortal intern. Sucks. And so how do they...
They just shoot him a bunch of times and he dies.
No, they don't. They stick a stake through him, is what happens. Yeah, they stake him, and then his skin falls off. He starts like rotting and gooping. It was gross. And then he becomes a pile of bones, and then the bones like explode and go everywhere, and then his skull rolls on the ground, and he is dead. Great. That took a while. And then they turn around, and Jerry is
Only Jaime would murder a mortal intern and then be like, come on, dude, die faster.
I didn't murder him. I didn't do nothing. He didn't see me. I didn't do nothing. They see Jerry. Jerry's there. They fight Jerry. They start fighting Jerry. Peter Vincent tries to shake him back with the cross, but you have to believe in it, actually, or yourself, or both. But then Charlie is able to do it with his cross, whatever. And so they're fighting, and then... am I missing anything? No.
This is where, like, because they killed the intern, and then he busts through the glass window.
That's right. Oh, he was on the outside, yes. And then he calls for Amy and tries to wake her up. He's like, show them how much you love me. And then she, like, sits up and then falls back down, and then he's yelling, and he, like, is pretty comically trying to come in the windows, and he keeps, like, floating towards the window and then floating away from the window, and it was pretty good. And so he busts through the stained glass. He is there. And you can see that the sun is coming up, and he starts reacting to the sun coming up, and then he turns into a bat, to try to get away. Crazy bat puppet. I don't know why bat puppets are like I guess they can't use real bats, and there was no CGI. All right, bat puppet. So it's huge. It looks like a chihuahua.
I think at least they tried something other than
I liked it, yeah.
Suspiria.
And he's fighting the bat, and then the bat ends up biting Charlie, which I thought was going to be important. Apparently not. And then he is able to get into the basement where we know his coffin is. And so then they go into the basement. They're trying to go get him, and Peter is trying to open up the coffin, and then Amy walks down, and her hair is now longer, full vampire transformation, and she says, "Don't you want me anymore, Charlie?" And she's like coming up on him, and then she turns away and pretends to cry and says like, "This is your fault, this happened to me." True. And then Charlie's like, "Oh no," and then we see in the subtitles drops cross, and I was like, God damn it. And so then she starts attacking him. They're fighting. She's trying to bite him. Basically what they end up doing is being able to bust the windows out, so sunlight starts coming in, and it takes forever. There's like a bunch of fake outs where Jerry, in full ugly ass vampire mode, because they open up his coffin, they're gonna stake him, but he wakes up. Yeah. He is able to corner Peter and Charlie, and so you're like, okay, he's done. Like, Jerry wins. Not really, but he doesn't, because they bust out the windows more, and Charlie ends up holding down Amy so she can't go for him, and he, in a scene where it zooms in and out, and in and out, and in and out from like 5 different camera angles, he blows up. Yeah. He lights on fire, he blows up, he turns into a bat skeleton. What the fuck else happens?
Green fire. The wind starts erupting, and there's a bunch
so
of
many things happen.
It was amazing.
It was like, they're like, all right, it's like when you put every single PowerPoint transition on one slide.
Yes.
That's what happened. He's dead. And Amy, apparently, Eric informed me, when you kill a head vampire, the other people get to go back to normal, because Amy is a normal girl again. Wow.
Poor girl. Just go back to
the
be in a relationship with Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then they cut to, they are making out on his bed. They look up at the TV. Peter Vincent is back on TV, but now they're doing aliens instead of vampires. And he gives Charlie a little shout out. And Charlie looks out the window and he sees 2 red eyes staring at him from the house across. And it really spooked me. I was like, God. What the fuck?
Is it Jerry?
Is it? No. Oh. Amy says, what is it? And he's like, nothing. So he learned his lesson. No snooping on your neighbors. And then we hear cackling and laughing, and then we hear you're so cool, Brewster. So Ed's alive. End of movie. Cut to the Fright Night song. That was Fright Night.
Great job, Jamie.
Thank
you did it again.
Challenging.
It's a lot. It's a big movie.
I feel like it really takes a turn at like the hour mark. Because it's just 45 minutes of, like, bullshit. Like, calling the cops on the vampire and yelling and running around and, like, weird, unnecessary dialogue with the mom. And then it's, like, I don't know. Peter Vincent should have come in way sooner, in my opinion. So why don't you tell me a little bit about this movie?
Let's go through this movie. So, like I said, it's a pretty low-budget movie that Columbia Pictures was putting together. They made this movie from between $7 to $9.25 million. So, pretty low.
Okay.
They used the special effects team that was just coming off of Ghostbusters. So if you the Goop, yeah. I never knew that before until doing the research for this time, and it made like the creature design and stuff like that. It's like, oh, this is all just like the same Ghostbustery stuff.
Haven't seen Ghostbusters.
Not yet.
I think the theme song fucks. Ghostbuster theme song's amazing.
Yeah, busting makes you feel good. It made $24.9 million. So
good return. Great return.
It was a surprise hit. They really weren't like putting any money into this.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe I've never heard of this movie.
It feels like one of those movies that's like below like cult classic. Like, it's a good movie and people really enjoy it, but I don't know if I've ever met a single person who's like, my favorite movie is Fright Night.
That tracks.
I know a lot of people
I agree with that.
were like, oh, Fright Night's a really like good fun movie.
Yeah.
Which I agree. It's a good fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of critics afterwards said the same thing. They liked its fun vibes. Because, I mean, it's like, it is fun. It came out the same year as Return of the Living Dead, I found out.
Okay.
Which kind of feels like it tracks too, but without, like, it's doing the same thing of, like, commentating on prior horror monsters. Return of the Living Dead, of course, like, kind of changed and flipped the formula on its head for zombies and changed it. This one, like, did the opposite of that because vampires have come such a long way from where they were, so they get back to it. What did you think? What did you not like?
You already know what I'm going to say.
What did you not like?
Too horny.
I don't know.
It was too horny. Look, all right, here's the thing. Guy's really hot. great chemistry with Amy.
Yeah.
Amazing chemistry. I really wanted her to be older. Yeah. And I know it's the 80s. Okay, I understand. But, like, even if they were in college, that would have been, like, better. It's still not good. And I know vampires prey on young women, and that's the thing. But I was just like, I want to enjoy this sexy synth moment in the club. And I cannot.
Right.
I cannot in good faith. So I don't know if that's something I didn't like. That's something... And also, really funny, I was like, holy shit, Eric, this movie is so horny. And Eric was like... low-key looking a little horrified. I looked over at Eric. Eric forgot.
Yeah, I mean,
it's so horny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something. It is. It's like what you said. Like a lot of these movies that we watch, and especially the 80s for some reason, are just like a very distinct genre of like what they deem okay and not okay.
Yeah.
And you just kind of have to like process that and be like, okay, it's this movie. I understand what it is. Yeah.
Bummer.
And
I usually don't like saying that, but I get it. Especially with vampires, that's the whole thing.
And if I was her, I wouldn't care if he was immortal. I'd be like, hey. I saw you looking across at me at the club and slowly zigzagged your way over to me. I appreciated that. You don't even have to put me under your thrall. Let's get some dance out here.
Oh boy.
My hair's growing as we were talking. It's wild.
I think the pacing could have been a lot tighter in the first half. I think the first 45 minutes could have been 20 minutes.
It feels like a very writer's movie.
Yeah, it takes way too long to set everything up.
He really likes to exhaust all of his resources.
Yeah, it's like, fuck, we get it. Jesus Christ.
Like, listen, I know you're going to ask about the cops. We've got the cops covered.
It was, that was a little too much.
I liked the mom. The mom was great. It's just she just doesn't play a part.
Fine. I felt like they were setting her up to be more involved and that she wasn't at all.
Yeah.
I like everyone serving their purpose in a movie.
Yeah.
You know, I guess she was mom, but she didn't do anything. I
thought the vampire in the house.
Yeah, that was pretty fucking funny.
Yeah.
Is there anything that stood out to you on a rewatch?
Didn't like?
Yeah.
Yeah, what you said, it's weird. With like this the horniness.
I mean I hated Charlie. If that wasn't clear, obviously.
It's not his movie. He's
deeply unlikable.
He is the main character, but it's like you don't watch the movie being like,
absolutely.
Man, I really want to watch it for this kid. You're watching it for Peter Vincent, who's giving it.
He's amazing.
Delivering, like he's just like so good.
Everyone was good. Every single person in this movie was good except for him.
Yes.
Except for Charlie. And like not a good actor. Not a good role.
Even the intern was like he's like a weird actor. Whoever that, I think they said like he was like a Second City or one of those like improv guys.
That's right.
He
has Bill Hader energy.
He was just like working every scene he was in. He was doing like little weird faces or
little weird eyebrows. Yeah, I liked him. I don't know. Could have been faster. Charlie could have been way better on all fronts. What I did like is, I mean, Peter Vincent, star of the movie, he was amazing.
It's because he was like playing like three things at once.
Yes.
Because he's got his persona, and then even when he's outside of his persona, he still like pulls from his persona at some point.
And then he's like washed up, has to find himself. Proud of him. Good job, buddy. I love the like wash up star has to get called in for one last job trope.
Because it literally,
I'm a fan.
There's that scene where it goes from like him getting the eviction notice, and you see like his true like beaten form. And then immediately gets a knock on the door. And he's like, "Okay, fans." And he like gets into his cape and like he's like, "Yes!"
His little smoking jacket. Yeah.
And then takes money from a child.
Why did I immediately think of Machete from Spy Kids? Same trope.
Reboot this with Danny Trejo.
I would watch the fuck out of that. Soundtrack was great. Jerry was really good. He was really funny, great timing, very charismatic, very hot, lots of sweaters.
Really, the wardrobe. Mm-hmm. He had one.
Vampire in a sweater cracks me up.
He had a turtleneck with a sweater at one point.
Like a lot of sweaters. Little sweater vest. Yeah. I thought Amy was really good too. I thought she was great. She did a really good job with what she was given.
I am mad that we didn't get like a series based off just like Jerry. Because he's just like he's a vampire that's been around for so long, and you can kind of like tell with just like his demeanor and like everything he has. Like, this is, like, not the first time he's gone to a new town and moved in and killed... Like, they have a system in place. Mm-hmm. And, like, you see towards the end that they're, like, filling in a coffin with more dirt. Because they're probably going to bounce from this town afterwards because they've already made too much of commotion. And so, like, it's just, like, that's cool. And there's, like, so much there. And then, like, he just has, like, this demeanor of, like, I'm a vampire. Like, what are you going to do? And
it was great.
He's just eating up every scene. He's either eating up the fruit or he's eating up the scene, or doing both.
Or the women.
And it's great. And it's just this world that has been thrust upon us that's wonderful. And unfortunately, our conduit to enter this world happens to be this little sweaty fucker. Who's called Brewster. But even like Jamie brought up a good point, like throughout the movie, like everyone brags on this kid. Nobody's like nice to him.
I did love that, yeah. Everyone's like, you're so stupid. You're a bad boyfriend.
It's Peter's
it just
movie.
Kind of happened.
It is his redemption arc.
Well, that's the thing. It should have. I feel like it should have. I wish it had centered around Peter. That would have been really interesting.
Yeah, I think.
Like, what if it was his point of view?
Better movie.
I
would love to see that movie.
I want to watch the reboot now too.
Yeah, me too.
Could have done a whole series.
Yeah.
Based on him. Based on Peter now.
Make him fight an alien in the next movie.
Absolutely.
And it's such a weird, like, bygone trope of having, like, a TV host. Like an Elvira or whatever.
What I'm thinking about, and I'm trying to figure out, is the scariness of this movie.
Oh.
Is it scary? There are some deeply unpleasant parts of this movie.
I think that's a better way to... It's not scary. It's just like there's like...
It's like, bleh. Like, no. You know? Like, no thank you. Not for me. I will pass on the goop.
It's very soupy.
Very soupy, very goopy. I use the word his skin sloughing off. Eric does not like that word.
I don't like it, no.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know, I'd give it like a 3 out of 5.
All right.
Like, if that's something if you're squeamish, there are some parts of this movie that aren't great. I don't know, maybe like a 2.75.
Okay.
Bump it down just a little bit. But
this movie really, especially compared to other vampire movies, because usually vampires, you stab them and they like combust.
This was like, like we said, just a lot. Every single thing you could do, they did. I give this movie, what did I say earlier? I said 5 out of 5 bonks for horny jail. I give it 2 out of 2 Brewsters.
Okay.
And I give it...
Wow, we got more.
8 out of 8 perms. And I give it 1 out of 1 vampires and sweaters.
You got more?
No.
All right. Well, I'm glad you liked it.
I really did like it. I was surprised. I feel like this isn't super up my alley. I don't love the horny teens, okay? I'm always just like, come on. But apparently all you need is a bunch of gimmicks and a one very obvious tacky vampire. And an hour and 45 minutes and a wall of cuckoo clocks.
Perfect.
12 out of 12 cuckoo clocks!
Well, yeah. Jamie, there are good reasons to be afraid of
Oh my god!
Please subscribe and drop us a review if you haven't already. Also, you can follow us on Instagram at Horrorscope Pod with 1D or at Twitter at Horrorscope Pod with 2Ds. We post new announcements, news, artwork, and more all right there. Your horoscope for the day is: take a bite out of life before it bites you.
Fright Night is a 1985. Why did I panic at saying 19? Fright Night is a 1985 American horror film written and directed. It stars Chris Sarandon. Oh, is he related?
He is.
It stars Chris Sarandon. Fuck me.